Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for this session of the National Graduate Week to hear about Teach First application process and the personalised application journey offered. We will be sharing what it means to join the UK's largest teacher training programme, consistently ranking in the Times Top 100 graduate employers for the past 10 years. You'll find at the right of your screen chat to pop in any questions that you have. Our hosts will be gathering the questions to have a full Q&A following their presentation. Just to let you know that this session with Teach First is being recorded. You'll be able to watch again on demand on Careermap's National Graduate Week website. That's nationalgraduateweek1word.co.uk, and it will be available on Careermap TV on YouTube. Our guests today are Catherine Camp, who's the Early Talent Manager, and Richard Rolling, Recruitment Manager and Application Management. So, are you here? There they are.
Hello.
Great. Thank you for joining us. Nice to see you. I'm going to disappear off and I shall be back at the end. Hope you enjoy the session.
Thank you. So as mentioned, my name is Catherine and I am part of the early talent here at team here at Teach First. So it is great to see you all. I'll just get my slides up there and I'm joined by my colleague, Richard.
Hi everyone, my name's Richard. So I manage the application management team. We look after applicants. We're your main point of contact throughout your time with your application, coaching you ready for your development centre and ensuring that you've got a main point of contact for any questions you might have, however big or however small they might seem.
Fantastic, thank you. And as mentioned, if you do have any questions throughout, please do pop them in the chat and we will come to them at the end of the session. So to kick off, first of all, obviously we'll be talking today about who Teach First are, why we exist, and talking about our graduate and undergraduate programs. And I thought it'd be great to start with a video that I feel really encapsulates what it means to be part of community within the teaching sphere.
Back so soon.
Morning.
We're gonna lock the doors.
Come on, you don't want to be late on your first day back.
Sorry.
Okay, who's happy to be back in school?
That's good. Is anyone feeling a little bit anxious?
He seems really concerned. Can you just keep an eye on him?
Alright, well done. Let's go from keeper again and let's see if we can do that better.
Go straight back to your tutor.
So I'm just calling to see if there's anything happening at home that we might need to be aware about.
Okay guys, so that's where we're going to finish today. Well done guys, excellent work.
Sir?
Get it off your chest.
Okay, so that video there really demonstrates the community that's needed to raise every single child and to power every child's potential. And that's what we've been doing here at Teach First since 2003. the education system in this country, simply put, isn't fair. And that's why Teach First exists. A child's future, what they want to achieve, what they want to go on to do in their careers, should be determined by how hard they're willing to work. But unfortunately, more often than not, a child's future, a child's grades, are more determined by their postcode and their parents' earnings rather than their potential. The fact of the matter is that a child from a disadvantaged background is far less likely to go on to get good GCSEs and the GCSEs needed to progress in their education. And that slow start can last a lifetime, widening that gap in social inequality and attainment. To give you an idea more about what we mean by education inequality, I've got a few statistics to really demonstrate that point. So my first statistic is looking at children who are eligible for free school meals. So a child is eligible for free school meals if their parent or carer receives a certain level of support from the government. So the statistic here is asking what percentage of students eligible for free school meals do not achieve a grade 5 at GCSE English and Maths at GCSE level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a poll. So you can have a vote. So what percentage of children eligible for free school meals will not achieve a grade 5 in GCSE English and Maths? So you can vote there. Hopefully the poll has popped up for you. I can see it on my side. I know there can be a slight delay. There we go. I'll just wait a bit for those votes to come in. So what percentage of children eligible for free school meals will not achieve a grade 5 in GCSE English and Maths? Okay, looks like everyone's voted, so it's pretty tight in terms of what people think, but just edging ahead is the 78%. So unfortunately, you're correct. 78% of students eligible for free school meals do not achieve a grade 5 in GCSE English and Maths. So therefore, they cannot go on to do their A-levels or T-levels or go on to college places, and they cannot be eligible for the vast majority of apprenticeships. So therefore, what's available for these students in terms of their future careers? The answer to that is it's extremely limited. And therefore, obviously, being limited in their career choices will impact so many aspects of their future. My next statistic is around the percentage of doctors. So what percentage of our doctors come from a working class background? So that's not necessarily eligible for free school meals, just coming from a working class background, which myself and many of you may also come from. So I will start the poll now. And hopefully that will pop up in the side for you. There we go. So what percentage of our doctors come from a working class background? So not necessarily free school meals, just a working class background. This one seems a lot more one-sided. Oh, I'll give it just another minute. Okay, looks like everyone has had their votes. And again, the majority were saying 4%. And again, you're correct. Just 4% of our doctors, 4% of the people that we see day in, day out in our most vulnerable states only come from working class backgrounds. How many more students from those backgrounds were sat in their science classes, really loving their chemistry and biology, but then they had a substitute teacher for the entire year and their grades dropped? And suddenly doing A-level chemistry and biology was no longer an option. This happens far too often in the schools that we work in. And that's what we're trying to do here at Teach First, to actively change this. So how do we go about that? Well, research shows that a truly effective way we can change the outcomes for children is living in poverty is through their education. Great teachers and leaders in schools are invaluable in helping students to develop the confidence they need to realize their full potential. That's where we come in. We train people to be great teachers, including hopefully many of you here tonight. We then run professional development for leaders in schools to take you up to that next level, and work with a broad range of supporters across a vast number of sectors to tackle systemic problems in education, helping those schools to thrive. But it all starts with great teachers, which is where our training program comes into play. So over the 2 years on our program, you will train, work and qualify as a teacher in one of our partner schools. So these are the schools where you can have the greatest impact straight away, where you'll have a massive difference straight away. You'll receive world-class training, coaching, mentoring, and access to an extensive professional network throughout your 2 years. And most importantly, you'll be making a difference from day one in the classroom. This isn't the type of job role where you'll be doing the same thing day in, day out. You'll have a real professional challenge from the off and be responsible for real students and real classes from the get-go. And that's something which those that have done the program say is fantastic to have that professional challenge, because it develops them so quickly and puts them ahead of their peers really early on in their careers. So what will you get? Over the 2 years, you will gain a fully funded postgraduate diploma in education and leadership, or a PGDE. Now, you've probably heard of a PGCE before. Well, this encompasses everything they do, but it also comes with leadership combined as well, because we strongly believe if you cannot lead, then you cannot teach. So we give you the skills that you need in order to make that happen. The PGDE is also 80% of a master's. So if you wanted to, you could top this up to an optional master's degree at a reduced cost in an optional 3rd year. You'll gain a salary while training from day one on the program, and you do not pay any fees whatsoever for your qualification. You'll get support from us, the school, and our extensive professional network throughout. You'll also get connections to our corporate partners, including Amazon, PwC, and Goldman Sachs. Now, these companies partner with us because of the great work that we do as a charity. Do have a look on our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages to see what we're up to. But not only that, they work with us because of the quality that we install with you, and they want to be a part of that. And we'll talk more about those connections later on. Now, going to hand over to Richard to talk through the application process.
Lovely. Thank you, Catherine. So I manage our application management team here at Teach First. We are your first point of contact for any question you might have, any question about your application, any question you might have about our selection day, which we call our development centre. Once you open up an online application form, you will hear from one of my team, your recruiter, who will be your main point of contact from this point all the way until you have an offer for the programme. Our role is to support you. So with your online application, we ask for competency questions. So instead of asking you to fill in one big kind of page just about your experiences, we ask you about specific competencies that we look for. You don't need to have had any experience within the classroom. You don't have to have even stepped foot in a classroom to gain experience. We believe that we can train that into you on our program. So what we look for are those competencies. But we're on hand to support you with writing those. We're on hand to support you with any questions that you might have. Once you've then completed your online application form, you'll hear back from us within 10 working days whether or not you've been successful. If you have, you'll then be invited to our development centre. Our development centre is our chance to get to meet you, to see you. These are run both online and in person. And during the day, we'll ask you to complete a one-to-one interview, which will be full of competency questions, where we will ask you about experiences that you've had either over your education history or maybe your work history as well. We will ask you to take part in one of our group tasks to see how you work within a team, before finally we ask you to complete a 4-minute teaching episode, which is a one-to-one tutorial with one of our selection team who'll be playing the part of your student. We will give you all the information that you need for this. We will ask you to come to a workshop designed again to support you and make sure you are as prepared as possible for your development centre. You'll have a one-to-one coaching call again with one of my team to again make sure you are as prepared as possible for the day. One of the best things I think about our development centre is that every single person that attends the day can pass the day. This is not about competition or selecting the best people on the day. If there are 20 people that attend, all 20 people will be made an offer, which then brings me on to that offer. And after your selection day, you'll hear again within 2 to 3 weeks whether or not you've got your place on the programme. We work on a first come, first serve basis. So if you hypothetically apply today, you could have your offer by the end of November. Once, of course, you have that offer, you'll then be invited to our Summer Institute. Our Summer Institute is your initial training before you ever step foot in the classroom to make sure you are as prepared as possible. We have 2 options for our Summer Institute. We have our full-time 5-week Summer Institute, but we also run an 8-week online Summer Institute as well. Both of these take place online on the whole, and that's to ensure that if you have things like childcare, if you have work commitments, if you have care and responsibilities, that you're still able to attend. You will, though, get to spend about 1 week of that in school so that you can really see and translate the things that you're learning and see how that is then brought into the classroom. But it's such a fantastic time to meet other trainees, build new skills, build new connections, and gain insight into all aspects of teaching, learning those key teaching skills along with subject-specific training. You then start in school in September. You're then onto an 80% timetable, and now nearly all of our people that attend our Summer Institute are itching and ready, raring to go as soon as they step foot into the classroom. Now, when you're in that classroom, you're not left on your own, of course. You'll still have all of that, all of your support. You'll still have your tutor, which I'll come on to in a minute, and people working with you. You spend more time in the classroom during your first term with Teach First than you do nearly any other training program. And whilst the Summer Institute absolutely sets you up for success, there is nothing like the experience you get from standing in front of the class. At the end of your first year, you will gain qualified teacher status. So you will be a qualified teacher at the end of your first year. So you are never behind any other program. Now, moving into year 2, you can absolutely use your summer holidays at the end of your first year to go on holiday. You've absolutely earned that right. However, we also run summer projects which are optional. With these optional summer projects, they run, I suppose, a little bit like internships, where you get to work with some of our corporate partners, people like PwC, people like Accenture, and gain experience within industry. We hope that every single teacher we train will stay within teaching. However, we have a responsibility to make sure we can upskill you in skills that are transferable across lots of different industries. And it's also a chance to understand how those corporate worlds work, but also how we can have an influence trying to change society for the better. Education needs to change, but also society needs to change to make education fair for all. At the end of your second year, you will complete your postgraduate diploma in education, and then you will become an ambassador. An ambassador is kind of a fancy way of saying alumni, really, but you will become one of our ambassadors, joining over 15,000 people that we have helped train and join one of our maybe ambassador networks who you can continue that training through and continue gaining that support from peers and colleagues working within the sector. Now, support is extremely important to us, and you will receive ongoing training and support throughout your time on the training program. You will never be left alone. And this really comes from 3 different areas that you can see on your screen. You'll have your development lead, who is employed by Teach First, working with you, observing you, and making sure that you're on track to pass and to gain your PGDE. You'll have your subject development lead, people who are specialists within your subject, whether that's geography, maths, science, primary, key stage 1. And you'll have an in-school mentor, someone that will be working with you who works at the school, ensuring that you have that support in the classroom every single day and week whilst you're on the programme. Now, support doesn't just happen when you're on the programme. We also try and support you before you've even applied. And that's one of the reasons that we run something called our Taster programme. Our Taster programs are for students graduating in 2025 or later, so maybe someone that's in their first or second year. And this is to spend 2 days upskilling and developing your CV. It also allows you to get a fast track onto our training program if you're able to complete this straight through to our development centre, but also gives you some further skills that you'll be able to use on our training program, meaning it's a great way to really be able to taste what it's like to take part in Teach First. I will pass you back to Catherine to talk through some of our ambassadors and the other support that you can receive.
Fantastic. Thank you, Richard. So once you've done the Teach First training program, you become what we call an ambassador. And our ambassadors are placed across the country. I will give you a moment to read the quote by James there at the top, who's one of our physics ambassadors. And we also have Aaron Collingwood Williams there down at the bottom in London. So Aaron studied maths and economics at university, and he initially thought his future would lay in the city, in the corporate world. And so many people have that thought when looking at Teach First as a possible option for their career. But after his first year on the training program, we got him, and he knew that he could have a more meaningful impact in the classroom. And he's now an assistant principal at our John Keats Academy in London. And Aaron said, "My role in school is far more than just a teacher. I am a leader. I am a counsellor at times. And my role is to also make sure that they understand what leadership looks like to young people. As a young Black school leader, I'm aware that I am an example to them and what leadership should look like." Now, at Teach First, we began in 2003 in London only. And in London at the time, it was one of the worst places to go to school in the country in terms of attainment grades, one of the worst outcomes in terms of GCSE and A-level results across the country. And now it's one of the best. And the government have actually cited Teach First as one of the main reasons for that complete transformation in attainment levels within the London area. And now we want to replicate this winning formula across England, because we're finding more and more that actually those statistics I showed you earlier, that gap between rich and poor and their attainment is widening in rural and coastal areas especially. Now, you may come from those areas. You may know exactly what I'm talking about if you live in a rural and coastal area, about the teachers in your schools, about the substitute teachers, and the difficulties that you face in those communities. And that's why we need to make sure that we are putting teachers across England so we can feel the need where the need is greatest to make sure that every student has access to a fantastic teacher. So when you do make your application, you will be able to obviously rank your preferences in terms of where you would like to be based. But there is a need for flexibility in terms of where you would be based so that we can meet the need of the schools that we work with, as we are seeing that all of those statistics I showed you earlier are becoming more and more prevalent in more rural and coastal areas, as well as the cities that we continue to work in. So what of our 16,000 ambassadors to date? We've run many a program, and that's why we have so many ambassadors. Well, 104 are head teachers, 2,100 plus are in school leadership positions, and 62% of those who still teach continue to work in low-income areas. Now, Teach First is very prestigious, and we actually only make up about 5% of the total teachers that come through each year. However, we make up around 20% of those teachers who serve purely low-income areas. And the fact that 62% of those who still teach want to continue to work in those low-income areas shows that we really value the impact that we are having in those particular schools, and we want to stay. As you can see, we've got so many of our teachers in those higher school leadership positions. In fact, you are 7 times more likely to be in a senior leadership position within a school if you've done Teach First as opposed to any other teaching route. So if you're sitting there thinking, I want to be head of department one day, then this could be the choice for you. And that doesn't happen by accident. As I said, our postgraduate diploma in education comes with leadership. Not only that, we have so many programs that you can do afterwards to help boost your leadership skills. So if you do the 2 years program and you still want to work with Teach First, we will be there to support you throughout your career in the classroom. So that just gives you an idea of some of the statistics going forward. On a personal note, when I went through university, I had a couple of friends who did Teach First. One of them was a head of maths by the age of 26, which is absolutely fantastic. And I've been a recruiter for some time. And what that means is that I talk to people before they start the program. I help to get them ready. I help them with their applications to get them ready and prepared for starting the training program. And I had one person a girl from Exeter, who was unsure on her ability. She was a bit worried. She thought, I don't know how I'm going to do on the training program. I decided to catch up with her after she'd finished the training program. Bear in mind, she was a year out of the training program. And I was like, so what's going on with you now? And she goes, I'm head of geography at my school. So that really shows that even if maybe you're somebody who's not a natural leader or doesn't have that confidence, we can install that in you in order to get you to the places you want to be in your career. But we appreciate that not everybody who's going to do Teach First is going to stay in the classroom. And in fact, we need people to go on to so many different areas, different companies like the government, the civil service, loads of different charities, which our ambassadors go on to do in order to affect change across the country when it comes to education. Here we have Cyrus. He is one example of that. So Cyrus did the program and then he went on to work for Accenture, which, if you recall Richard saying, is one of our partner companies. So no surprise there. In fact, we have over 500 of our ambassadors now working at the Big Four. So Cyrus does still continue to help us and to work with schools outside of the classroom. For example, he is a school governor, so therefore having an impact immediately on a particular school. Not only that, he heads up the Teach First Ambassador Network at Accenture. So as I mentioned, many people go on to lots of different companies, and in fact, often, so many Teach First people by this date have now joined other companies that they actually have their own networks within them. And we're finding that the people within those networks are actually progressing quicker than their peers who hadn't done Teach First within their own companies. So he also heads up that network, and he also offers business inspiration days, which are a really fantastic opportunity from children from disadvantaged areas and schools to come into Accenture and to see what it's like to work in that corporate field, an opportunity that otherwise they would never have had. So we really mean it when we say, whatever you go on to do, as long as you're inspired by what the Teach First do, and we need you to sort of work across the board to help our vision become a reality of building a fair education for all. So as mentioned, these are some of the corporate partners that we work with in order to also offer you obviously summer projects, which Richard mentioned. Just to note, obviously, on those summer projects, which is absolutely fantastic, that they are exclusive just for Teach First trainees. So you'd only be competing against other people doing Teach First for those summer projects. And they are available to you for every summer throughout your career. So a real unique selling point of the Teach First program. But these companies like to partner with us also because of the great work that we do as a charity. So for example, during lockdown, we had our Shut In, Not Shut Out campaign, where we helped with our partners to raise £3 million to provide tech support to students who would go home and not be able to access their lessons, so provide them with laptops and Wi-Fi so that they could continue their learning in a home environment. So that gives you an idea of what Teach First to do as a charity outside of purely our training program, and why these companies want to work with us. So here are just some of the reasons for joining the training program. I'll give you a minute to read through those. Now, you'll be reading those and you may think that all of them resonate with you, only a few resonate with you, but ultimately there's several good reasons to join the training program, and only you will know the ones that really matter to you. I want to finish today with what is definitely my favorite video, which really demonstrates the importance that one teacher can have on a student and their impact.
in Hull, so I grew up seeing my mum working really hard, my nan having her own business. Even though my dad was far away in Bristol, I had these two women that worked really, really hard and provided in like quite a challenging circumstance, and that inspired me. I guess my key motivator was my mum, and I think because growing up in Hull with just her as a single parent and watching her from when I was really young work a day job and then at night go out, and she trained as a youth worker counsellor, and she'd go out on the estates in Hull and just work all night doing that. So that motivated me then to go to uni and work hard. And some kids that I see day in, day out don't have anyone that's doing that for them. So within the first month of working at school, I had one student and she never did her homework. One day I had a conversation with her and I was like, what can we do to get you to do your homework? And she was like, if I'm honest, miss, can't I just stay after the lesson and do it then? So we set up a homework club, and every week after the lesson she'd stay and do her homework there and then, but occasionally she'd just pipe up with the odd question. And I knew she didn't have a mum that was around, and I was realising actually more and more just having a female working role model in front of her was probably opening her eyes to a lot of things. And then after a few months she just said to me, will you make me a promise? Will you stay here until I finish school? And I was like, you mean working here? She was like, yeah. She was like, 4 more years, do you reckon you can do that? And I was like, yeah, I could try that. And you realise then, even though I see her 4 hours a week, I'm probably the most stable thing in that girl's life.
The last thing I would say to you, if I were never to see you again, would be thank you for making me me.
So that one gets me every time without fail. I'm always way too emotional at that. So again, that video really demonstrating the impact that a teacher has on a student, especially in the schools that we work in. Often that teacher could be the most stable thing in that student's life. So what's next? Well, let's open an application. If you are in your first or second or penultimate year of university, you can apply for our taster program, which Richard mentioned earlier. That's our 2-day program to upskill you in a variety of transferable skills, and obviously giving you a head start for our training program when the time comes. If you are in your final year of university or older, you can open an application for our training program now. We are open for applications now, and we do fill on a first come, first serve basis. So it's very important to get your application in early. And in fact, if you apply before the 23rd of November, you'll be able to secure your offer by Christmas. So therefore, if you're thinking, oh, I've got to start next year, I know there's January exams, get it all sewn up before that all begins. So you can enjoy the Christmas holidays, safe in the knowledge that you have an offer with Teach First. When you do open an application, one of our recruiters will get in touch in order to take you through that process within 48 hours from doing so. So I could see a few questions there about the support. So that's the support that we have. We have a phone call and we can talk all through that process in order to help you to make the best best application possible. The QR code there, if you're not quite ready to make an application or you'd like more information, the QR code there takes you through to our expression of interest form. Again, if you fill one of those out, then the relevant officer will get in touch with you in order to talk to you a little bit more about how Teach First works and the next steps. But that is all from me. Thank you for listening. I'm now going to hand over to Richard for the Q&A.
Lovely. Thank you, Catherine. We've got lots of questions coming in, both on the chat and in the question and answer section. So I'm going to start with the chat side. So for any more questions or any new questions that we're getting, if you can pop it into the Q&A only part, that way we can go through these and then I'll move on to the questions on the other side. I think some of these questions may have been answered as well as we went during our presentation, but we will go back over them, and please feel free to ask any question, however big, however small. It's important that you can leave this session with all the information that you need to make your decision that hopefully Teach First is the right career path for you. Some of these I will answer, some I will ask Catherine as well. So the first question I've got is from Pete with what qualifications or degrees do I need to be eligible? So there isn't one specific qualification or one degree that you need. What we do look for, and I'm going to sound really old now as I say this, because I'm going to use A to C grades, but we need to see that you've got GCSE, maths and English. And if you are also going to do primary, then we'll also need to see science as well. For degree level, we need to see that you've got a 2-2 degree to be able to teach at secondary. If you're wanting to teach at primary, we actually ask for a 2-1 degree. Now, specifics then around what subjects you teach will depend on the degree you have. So if you're wanting to teach a subject like maths or science, you will really need to have a degree similar to one of those subjects. It doesn't have to be specifically that subject, but something that about 50% of your modules align to. But once you do open your application, you will have an option to fill in your modules and to fill in your education, and someone from our application management team will be on hand to support you and talk through what you're eligible to teach on the programme. Catherine, I'm going to pass over to you for this question. So we've got one here. Are there specific subject areas or teaching positions that are currently in high demand within the programme?
Yes, thank you for that. So if we're thinking about sort of where we need teachers the most, the subjects that are in greatest demand are your STEM-based subjects. So if you do have a degree qualification in a STEM-based subject, or A-levels, in fact, in STEM subjects, we would love to hear from you. So that's your maths, your sciences, computer science as well is one of the most in-need subjects in this country. In fact, 50% of schools had to cut computer science GCSE due to the lack of teachers. So if you do have those computer science qualifications, we'd very much like to hear from you. So all of those STEM-based subjects, but also languages. So we're looking at sort of French and Spanish as well. So yeah, they're the more high demand ones, ones that are sort of less in demand but fill very quickly and close quickly is primary and history. So if you are interested in teaching primary or history, it's really important, as I mentioned, that 23rd of November date to really be thinking about starting and completing your application, certainly before Christmas.
Lovely, thank you, Catherine. Next question is really interesting questions. How do you stay up to date with the latest teaching methods and education trends? I made a couple of notes about this. I would say we have an impact actually on education trends ourselves. So we will write reports, we'll try and influence certain things within the government. So if you're interested, we have something called our Missing Pages report, which is all about the English curriculum and lack of Black and ethnic minority authors within it. The largest exam board only had one single book by an ethnic minority author, and they had none by Black authors within it, which just shows how the curriculum needs to change moving forward. So we like to think anyway that we are ahead of trends and actually trying to have an impact on educational trends. When it comes to the latest teaching methods, all of our development leads who we spoke about earlier, who are working with you almost on a daily basis, ensuring that you're able to pass and to gain your postgraduate diploma education and your qualified teacher status. They're all teachers who have been within the classroom. They've all been trained within the classroom. We have ambassador networks made up of head teachers, executive head teachers, middle leaders. Along with our training program, we also offer middle leadership programs, our MPQs. We offer leadership training as well. We're also the lead provider of the early career framework. So stay up to date with all of the latest teaching methods and hopefully education trends as well. Catherine, what is the process for selecting placement schools?
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that one. So, placement schools is not a term we use. They will be your your employment school. So what would be the process is that, as I mentioned earlier, I had that lovely big map of England and we were talking about where you could be placed. So how it would work is in that when you start an offer, I keep saying offer, application is the word I'm after. When you start an application, as I mentioned, one of our officers will get in touch in order to talk to you about your preferences. So we strongly suggest that you take that phone call, because not only will they go through how to make the best application possible, but also that you can talk about your location preferences. So what will happen is that you will list your location preferences. And when I say location preferences, I mean by region. For example, I live in Bristol, so I would be the southwest region. So I would list south, if I wanted to stay here, I might not, as lovely as it is. I would list maybe South 1 as my top rank, and then I would rank the other areas that I would be interested in going to. Once that's all been put through, you would receive an offer that would tell you your subject location and your region. So, for example, if I was offered science in the southwest, it would then be the case that our designated schools teams would go out and find you a school. So you don't have to do any of that legwork at all. We do it all for you. We will go out based on the conversations that you will have with your officer. So someone like myself, those conversations that you will have will be honing in on a school that would be right for you. So we will find you a school that is obviously based on the vacancies that come through to us. We can only give you a school that wants you, basically. We are at the mercy of the vacancies that come up, but we'll be matching that based on what you've said, what your interests are, and obviously what the school is looking for as well. So when that match has happened, you will then find out your school. So we do all that legwork for you, so you don't have to, but you will let us know what it is that you're looking for. And as I said earlier, there is that need for a degree of flexibility. Obviously, if you have extenuating circumstances, we can take that into account. But there's that need for flexibility, as obviously school vacancies could pop up in many different areas. But we work across England, and we work in many, many areas as well. So thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Catherine. There's a couple of similar questions that I'm going to try and kind of answer, I think, all at once, or at least I think one leads on to another here. So the first one is, can you suggest any online materials to help with the application process? Then we've got a question, do you give any feedback if you aren't successful? And a final question is, what should applicants expect in terms of communications feedback throughout the application process? So all similar and all work really within the team that I manage here at Teach First. So the first thing that I would suggest for any support with your application or for Teach First is to speak to your recruiter. So once you've opened up your application, make sure you speak to your recruiter, who will be in contact with you within 48 working hours. These are people who are experts in knowing our application form. We're all trained assessors as well, so we know what the development centre looks like, and we know what the team are looking for in your application. But there is also lots of online material. If you go to the Teach First YouTube channel, there are some videos as well to support you with your application. If you go onto the Teach First website, there are also some guides on there. And we, again, in the application management team, can provide you with some kind of guides to what a good application looks like and the support that hopefully you will need to be successful. With regards to kind of that ongoing feedback, unfortunately, we can't give everyone feedback if you're not successful with your application. However, what we will do is give you feedback if you're not, or if you are even successful with your development centre. So even for those that do pass it, you can book in a feedback call where we'll go through each part of the day to make sure you're as upskilled as possible. We recommend people reapply again the following year if they're not successful, particularly once you know what it looks like. I think often with these things, the thing that kind of stops you being successful isn't lack of ability. It's either a lack of preparation or just the nerves of what something like this looks like, particularly if you haven't done something like this before. And again, we'll be on hand to support you throughout that process. I'm going to pass then back over to Catherine for the next question. Just bear with me. Is there a fee associated with the application process?
Great question. And absolutely not. So there are no fees associated with any part of the application process, and then obviously on the program. The only thing that you will need to pay for is the DBS, which I think is like £12. So that is the only fee during that process. But certainly the application process before you've got a place is completely free, and there are no fees associated with that, and your qualification is paid for as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question, do you need a PGCE to do this, or is that something I'll gain during the programme? So you won't gain a PGCE, because what you'll gain is a postgraduate diploma in education. So similar to a PGCE, but worth double the credits of the PGCE. Both come with qualified teacher status as well. So if anything, it's just a slightly more prestigious award that you will receive. I'm also going to answer the next question, if that's okay, Catherine, which is, how do you handle reapplications from individuals who are not successful in their initial attempt? As I mentioned before, you are able to reapply, however, you're not able to reapply in the same academic year. So we do ask you then to take some time, reflect, make sure you get that feedback if it's on offer, and by all means, please do come back the following year and reapply again. We've got a very, very high success rate with that. Catherine, the next question for you is, does Teach First help accommodate for applicants with disabilities or special needs?
Fantastic question. Yes, obviously this is a conversation that we would have. So when you speak to your initial recruiter during the application process, you can outline all the needs that you will have and that you believe that you'll have during the program. Obviously, maybe you've never been in that classroom setting, so you may not know at this stage. But it will be, if there is anything that needs to be flagged, then we can pass it on to our occupational health team, who are experts in this area, in order to help us to understand how to accommodate your needs in the classroom. So obviously, it depends on the need. We would need to talk about that in depth, but there are specialists that we work with to be able to help to accommodate your needs in the classroom. And that's something that we'll have lots of conversations about, and that we do really appreciate when people are open about it as well. So yes, there's lots of support on offer and lots of chances to have conversations with us and experts about that.
Thank you. So I'm going to move on to the Q&A only section. If I've missed one of your questions in the chat, please, by all means, do pop it in here as well, and I'll make sure that I go through that for you. So the first question on the Q&A only is, do you need experience before applying? What are the entry requirements, and is it quite competitive? So you need absolutely zero experience within the classroom before applying. It was a frustration of mine many, many, many years ago now, when I was a student. I used to sometimes look at graduate jobs, and they would still ask you to have a certain amount of experience within that industry. And I would think, how am I meant to get experience within that industry? And you're meant to be kind of a training program. You don't need that experience. What we look for are those competencies, so that we can see that you're going to become a good teacher. We absolutely believe in our program. We believe in the training that we offer, and we believe that we can train you to become a teacher. All that we're looking for is that you're able to demonstrate those competencies, so that we know that you're right for our program. And it's important to make sure Teach First is right for you, along with that you're right for Teach First. The entry requirements we went through earlier, but it is a relatively competitive process, but you're never competing against someone else. If we think that you can become a successful teacher, we will offer you a place on the program. That's why we work on a first come, first serve basis. As I mentioned, at the development centre, if there are 30 people that come to one of our development centres, all 30 of those people demonstrate that they could become quality teachers, we will offer all 30 of those people a place on our program. So is it competitive in the sense of lots of people apply for it? Yes, but the sooner that you apply, the sooner you'll be seen. As long as there's spaces available, we would absolutely offer you a place on our program. Catherine, after the course, do candidates have to stay in the UK to teach?
Fab question. So it's worth first of all noting that the PGDE is an internationally recognised qualification. So if you did want to go abroad, then you could do. Obviously, during the 2 years, you will be in a school based in England, but after the 2 years, there is nothing stopping you from working elsewhere and teaching elsewhere in the world. In fact, an awful lot of our trainees go on to do that, and it's something they're really excited about. We also have something called Teach for All. So Teach First and the formula that we use exists in many countries across the world. Teach for India, Teach for America, Teach for Australia. There's many countries who utilize this formula, and they are always happy to work with and to see our fantastic trainees. So not only will the qualification give you access to teach abroad afterwards, but also we have lots of different places that we can point you in the right direction in order to get that experience. So after the 2 years, you are free to go and teach internationally, and you have the qualification to do so.
Thank you, Catherine. Lovely answer. It's great to hear so many people when they do go abroad as well and experience so many different countries and cultures. It's one of the great things that teaching really does open you up to. Hi all, do we get to pick the age group we will teach? You don't get to pick the age group, but you can put a preference down in your application form. So one of the things we ask you is, would you prefer to teach, say, early years, primary, or secondary? We do tend to favour secondary placements, and that is only because we have more of them than we do primary. So again, if primary is something that you're really interested in, really passionate about, make sure you get your application in sooner rather than later. It's normally one of the first things that we close on our programme. And again, I've got a question here from Zara, who is currently an undergraduate psychology student, about advice that we would give in terms of gaining experience, what things she can do to increase chances of getting a place on the training scheme after she graduates. And I think the best way to say, again, you don't need that experience, but if you wanted to go and get some experience, if you wanted to maybe investigate whether teaching was right for you, if you're in your first and second year, absolutely take part in our taster program. I think the other things that can be really beneficial if you are a student is maybe getting some tuition experience, maybe some one-to-one. There's lots of tutoring companies out there, and it'll give you a good kind of idea about what it's like to plan short lessons, short sessions. If you've got a local primary school, a local secondary school near to you, even your old secondary school, see if you can go in for a week, see if you can go in for an afternoon, see what it's like, maybe volunteer to do some reading with some students within the schools. I guarantee they will bite your hand off for some support within those schools. But I think that's a nice way to maybe upskill yourself before starting the program as well. Catherine, if I applied and got the offer before Christmas, would the start wait until I graduated next June, or is it immediate start once the place is offered?
Fantastic. So we start, our next start cycle is late June 2024. So we're fully aware of the commitments of students and when they finish in their final year. So our next start date is late June 2024, which will be able to be after the vast majority of students' exams, ready to go for our summer institute. So yes.
Lovely. There is a question. I'm going to answer two questions here. One is, do you have to have GCSE Maths and English, or is an equivalent qualification acceptable? And also, is this open to non-British UK residents? So GCSE Maths and English, we accept certain equivalencies. If you email recruitment@teachfirst.org.uk, they will be able to tell you what equivalencies we do accept and what we don't accept, if that's an equivalent exam that you want to take. However, if you're asking about international equivalents or Irish equivalents or IB equivalents, for example, the International Baccalaureate, then absolutely we do accept all of those. If it's an international qualification, it will need to be ENIC checked. But yes, we do accept those. No problem at all. And is this open to non-British UK residents? Anyone can apply for the programme, any age, any nationality. However, you will need right to work in the UK for the duration of the programme, which is 2 years and 3 months for our main programme. I can't give advice about visas, but it does mean that if it's only a 2-year visa afterwards, it might make it more problematic to do it. However, we do accept international students, of course, on it. You just need right to work in the UK for the duration of the programme. Right, I think that is almost all of the questions that we've had here, Catherine. There's one final one that I haven't answered, which is, again, about sort of local schools or if it's more nationally. So I'm in Blackburn. Would I be able to join a local school or is it more national? Blackburn is somewhere my mum actually grew up, just outside of, in a little village called Darwin, if you know it, Cole. But again, the sooner you apply, and I think I've probably said it a few times now in this, but the sooner you apply, the more likely you are to get your preferences, whether that's subject, whether that is location. So if it is the Northwest that you're based in, if it is those sort of Lancashire areas, I would suggest getting that application submitted as soon as possible. We recruit for the whole of England, and as Catherine explained earlier, that can be rural locations, it can be cities, it's wherever the need is greatest working with our schools. So make sure you get that application in, and you could be having an impact on either your local community or a local community that really needs those teachers. And that is all the questions that I have, I think, unless I've missed any, in which case I do apologize. But again, if you do want to email any questions through to us, the recruitment email address, and we'll be able to get back to you as soon as possible, is recruitment@teachfirst.org.uk.
Great. What a fantastic session. What an amazingly engaged chat we've had today. Thank you for taking the time to go through all of those questions. I hope everybody's really pleased, but you can always pop up on our social media and we can pass them on as well. And I'm sure you can reach out to Teach First as well. I'd like to say thank you, big thank you to both Catherine and Richard for joining us this afternoon. And thank you everyone for joining us on the chat and being so engaged. Just a reminder that this session with Teach First has been recorded. You'll be able to watch it again on our site where you've registered, Careermap's National Graduate Week site in the resources. It will also be on Careermap TV, easy to Google, will pop up on YouTube. Great, thanks very much. So it's farewell from Catherine and Richard.
Thank you.
And farewell from me. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Bye-bye.